Om Vishnu Padashta Tarshta Shishimad Bhadavedanta Narayana Swami Maharaj Shri Gurudeva Ki Jai. Nichilila Pavishta Om Vishnu Padashta Tarshta Shishimad Bhadavigyam Bharati Swami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nichilila Pavishta Om Vishnu Padashta Tarshta Shishimad Bhadavedanta Vaman Swami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nichilila Pavishta Om Vishnu Padashta Tarshta Shishimad Bhakti Vedanta Trivikram Maharaj Ki Jai. Nichilila Pavishta Om Vishnu Padashta Tarshta Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Gorgovindamaraj Ki Jai. Nichilila Pavishta Om Vishnu Padashta Tarshta Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nichilila Pavishta Om Vishnu Padashta Tarshta Shishimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Shri Param Gurudeva Ki Jai. Nichilila Pavishta Om Vishnu Padashta Tarshta Shishimad Shri Bhakti Rakshak Srila Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nichilila Pavishta Om Vishnu Padashta Tarshta Shishimad Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nichilila Pavishta Om Vishnu Padashta Tarshta Shishimad Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nichilila Pavishta Om Vishnu Padashta Tarshta Shishimad Bhakti Dayita Madhav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Jagat Guru Nichilila Pavishta Om Vishnu Padashta Tarshta Shishimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nichilila Pavishta Paramahamsa Shri Gaura Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Nichilila Pavishta Satchidanand Shri Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai. Nichilila Pavishta Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Gauriya Shri Bhadadevi Vibhushana Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Narottam Srinivas Shamananda Prabhu Jai Ki Jai. Shri Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Raghunath Sadguru Swami Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Swarup Damodar Vairamanandadi Shri Gaurab Shadabharinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prema Seko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Shri Gaurab Bhatta Ki Jai. Shri Andadreep Mayapur Simantadreep Kodrimajreep Majajit Godadreep Richajit Janadreep Modadrimajreep Richajit Patmakashi Navadit Dhamma Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopako Govardhan Radhashvana Makashi Braj Mandala Ki Jai. Shri Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Jamuna Ganga Tulasi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Siddhashana Ji Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Pritama Ki Jai. Nishinga Bhagavan Ki Jai. Bhakta Pravashi Pralab Maharaj Ki Jai. Charu Sampradaya Ki Jai. Akaramat Raj Chaitanya Mat Ki Jai. Shri Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti Ki Jai. Shri Keshivaji Gaudiya Mat Ora Ananya Sakamu Mata Samuha Ki Jai. Shri Harinama Sankirtana Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Brinda Ki Jai. Samagata Pat Brinda Ki Jai. Shkoda Premanande. Hari Hari Bo. And then I was thinking to sing Gurudev Bodho Kripa Kari. I've just got it on the app, so I'm not sure of the page number. I'm sorry. But it's usually right after Kripa Bindudia. That's Gurudev Bodho Kripa Kari.
Thank you, Tony.
Gurudev Bodho Kripa Kari Gauravanamache Godru Media Chostana Gurudev Bodho Kripa Kari Gauravanamache Godru Media Chostana Agyadila More Evraje Bosi Harinama Korogana Madhagripa Gauri Gauravanamachi Godrumadiya Chostana Kintu Kabe Prabhu Jagyata Pibe Eda Sere Doya Kori Kintu Kabe Prabhu Jagyata Pibe Eda Sere Doya Kori Chitastira Habe Shakala Shahiva Chitastira Habe Shakala Shahiva Ekante Pojivo Hari Ekante Pojivo Gurudev Majagripa Gauri Gaurava Namache Guru Media Chostana Gurudev Majagripa Gauri Gaurava Namache Guru Media Chostana Shaishava Jovane Janasukha Sange Anyasahila Manda Shaishava Jovane Janasukha Sange Anyasahila Manda Nijaka Dashe Dehaila Nijaka Dashe Dehaila Bhajanara Pratibandha Bhajanara Pratibandha Gurudev Padakripa Kori Gaurava Namache Godru Media Chostana Gurudev Padakripa Kori Gaurava Namache Godru Media Chostana Padakake Kona Pancharoge Hata Kimone Bhajiva Vala Padakake Kona Pancharoge Hata Kimone Bhajiva Vala Kandiya Kandiya Tumara Charane Kandiya Kandiya Tumara Charane Pariyachi Suvivala Pariyachi Suvivala Gurudev Padakripa Kori Gaurava Namache Godru Media Chostana Gurudev Padakripa Kori Gaurava Namache Godru Media Chostana Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Patita Pavana Gurudeva Jaya Patita Pavana Gurudeva Gurudev 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 Jaya Gurudev Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jai Prabhupada Nitai Gaur Haribol 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 Gaura Haribol Nitai Gaur Haribol 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 Nitai Gaura Haribol Jai Shri Gaura Premanande Hari Hari
Jai Premanande, Hari Bol, Jai Nitai. Vancha Kalpa Turvischa, Kripa Sindhuevacha, Patitanam Pavanabhyo, Vaishnavabhyo Namanma. Om again Tiramandasya, Gyanjana Salakya, Chakshurmanitam Yena, Tashmai Shri Guru Namaha. Trinada Pisunichana, Taroda Pisaishtana, Namanina Manadina, Kitne Sadahari, Vachuvigam, Manashakrodavigam, Jivavigam, Udura Pastavigam, Etam Vikam Yovishaheta Dira, Savamapinam Pritvyam Sasisyat, Tatenukampam Susamikshamana, Bunjanavit Makvitam, Vipakam, Hitvak Papavidam Namaste, Jivata Yomukti Sat Dayabak, Anya balasa sunyam gyan kamadyanavritam anukarenya Krishna shilanam bhakti utma. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I pay my Dandavat pranams to my beautiful Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, to Srila Prabhupada, to the entire Parampara, and to all the assembled devotees who are here tonight, or today, or this morning, and all those who are going to be watching this by recording. Tarini Didi, thank you so much for your beautiful kirtan, setting off the mood so nicely for this Gurudev Memories, which is our 44th Gurudev Memories. I believe we're going to go until 64. So 44 out of 64. And as you know, what I like to do is convert that into the time of the day. So if this was a 24-hour clock, by the time we finish this Gurudev Memories, we're at 4:30 in the afternoon. So we're making some very steady progress. And for those of you that like to tell the time, by the day of Brahma, it is calculated that we are actually in the 10th Manu, the 44th Chatur Yuga, and we're in the Treta Yuga. I know it's pretty crazy, isn't it? 432,000 years into that Treta Yuga. I don't know, it's an obsessive thing I have to do each time. Please forgive me for my nonsense. We have a beautiful lineup today. We're going to be, actually it's 3 ladies and a gentleman, so it's the women outnumbering the men tonight. We are going to go to Hawaii first and to Srimati Manjari Didi in Hawaii, and then we're going to come back to Holland to Srimati Nandini Didi, and then we're going to go back to America. Very inefficient traveling, but there's no fuel involved, so it's very efficient and very eco-friendly. So we're going to go back to somewhere, excuse me, Kalimba, somewhere in California. I'm sorry, I've forgotten where. Srimati Kalimba Didi, and then we're going to be staying there because we'll then be handing over to her husband, Sriman Radhanatha Prabhu. So it's a beautiful lineup, and I'm going to introduce Srimati Manjari Didi first, and it's great doing it at this time. It's kind of late in England, it's 8 p.m., but this means we can get Hawaii in, as in Manjari, and we also have New Zealand as well at the other end of the time zone. So it's both sides of the Pacific are covered. Thank you for coming, Hari Priya Didi. Lovely to have New Zealand represented. So Srimati Manjari Didi, I'm going to make an announcement a bit later, actually at the end of her presentation, which involves her. In fact, she instigated it all. She met the devotees in 1969, and she took Harinam in 71 and Diksha in 72. She actually met Srila Prabhupada in 72. And I always like to mention, and it's a reminder to myself, that my generation of devotees owes a great debt of gratitude to this generation of devotees, because without Srila Prabhupada, we would have nothing. And without he was the Angi, he was the, always got the wrong way around. He was the Anga, and without all these Angis, none of the devotional knowledge would have been spread around the world. So we owe a huge debt of gratitude, which Narayana Maharaj always taught us to express. Manjari then met Srila Gurudev in 1995, went to live in Vrindavan in 96 and became a core contributor and sevak in GVP. And from 2005 onwards, and I'm really benefiting from this because we're going to announce the Rupa Goswami festival at the end of her presentation. But Gurudev started the Sri Rupa Goswami Tirabhav festival 30 years ago when he constructed Rupa Sanata Mandir. And in 2005, he instructed Manjari Didi to do one in English, and she's been faithfully doing that this year. And really, we're riding on her shoulders, taking it onto Zoom this year. A big debt of gratitude for that, because it's a wonderful festival. So that savor is is very beautiful because it's the core, it's the heart of Gurudev's, it's the heart of his heart actually, the heart of his mission, his relationship with Rupa Manjari, thus Rupa Goswami in this manifest world. So Didi, I don't want to take any more of your time. I'm very excited to hear your presentation, and my only lamentation is I cannot taste your incredible prasadam. Zoom doesn't allow that, but maybe one day even taste can travel down Zoom. Haribol, warm welcome.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me?
Pretty good. Can you hear her okay, Taruni?
Yep.
Great.
Good.
Okay. Ma Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschachade Shatarne Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Sriman Bhaktivedanta Narayaniti Namane Shri Krishna Dila Katane Sudaksham Audarya Madhurya Gunaistriyuktam Param Varanyam Purusham Mahantam Narayanam Tvam Shadasamam Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyavacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo So let's see. Gaurapriya a couple of weeks ago, she had a time when I spoke in Varsana. It was like, I think the first time I properly spoke for Srila Narayan Maharaj. One thing is when I met him in '95, Srila Prabhupada's appearance day. That was very amazing. And I was visiting Vrindavan at the time. And then in '96, he came to the Bay Area where I was living. At that time, I was at UC Berkeley. And soon after that, I came to India to initially to stay for just a year, but it turned out to be more than 20 years by his grace. And I started to go to the Keshevji Gaudiya Math, in going to all the classes that were there. And what struck me was what an amazing teacher he was. He was
Let's turn our videos
just
off.
wonderful. Sometimes he was,
Manjari? Manjari?
Yes.
1 second. I'm going to ask everyone to turn their videos off to help with your bandwidth. Turn videos off.
You're gonna.
Yeah.
You want me to turn?
No, you keep yours on. If Nandini turns hers off, and we'll help with the bandwidth. But you keep yours on. Yeah, perfect. You keep yours on. That will help with the bandwidth. Carry on. Sorry, Didi. Carry on. No, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, he would ask the brahmacharis, what's the difference between Gyan and Vigyan? And then he would randomly call somebody, one of the brahmacharis that was sitting there, and they would be forced to stand up, and they'd have to explain what the difference between gyan and vigyan is. And if he didn't like it, he would just say, sit down, and called somebody else. And in this way, he was training them. He was very, very training them very well. If nobody got it, then he would explain this in his talk. And oftentimes, if you said something right, he would repeat it in his talk. That's how I learned how, the different verses that I would use. If I got it right, like I'll think. I always hated to speak, still do. And
Didi, I'm afraid your bandwidth is very poor. Didi, you're going to need to turn your video off. The reception is not good.
But he took, so we would speak with him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, my video. Okay.
Yeah, because the bandwidth.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. Carry on.
Okay. All right. It kind of makes it easier. So I would have to speak about Srila Prabhupada. He would expect me to on Prabhupada's appearance day, Prabhupada's disappearance day, and Vishwarup Mahotsava. And so, which was the day that Srila Prabhupada took sannyas at the Keshavji Gaudiya Math. So then so one Vishwarup Mahotsava, I was speaking, and he wasn't really pleased with what I was saying. And he started to ask me questions. When did your Guru Maharaj take sannyas, and how did he preach? And it's like he was asking me these questions, which really I should have been covering in my talk. And then at one point he says, what was the internal mood of Swami Maharaj? And I looked at him, and I was just like, kind of my mouth dropped open. I said, the internal mood of Srila Prabhupada. I said, I can't answer that, Maharaj. And so then he turned to me and he said, sit down. And so I went back and I sat down, but I couldn't believe that he was asking me that. And so my husband Naviyovana, I said to, he asked me this, and he said, oh my God, we should talk to him. So we went back the next day at 6 o'clock in the morning, and so back from the morning walk, and as soon as he saw me, he understood why I was there. He would come, and in a few minutes he brought a chair and he sat down, and he called me and he said, yes, go. And then I said, Maharaj, I said, you asked me to, but how can I speak about this when I've never experienced the internal mood of Srila Prabhupada? And he turned to me and he looked and he said, beach is so high. And he motioned with his hands. He raised his hands up and he said, it is so high. He said, Swami Maharaj. Then he stopped and he said, but that doesn't mean that we cannot speak about it. He said, we can speak about the internal mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And that's all he said. And I understood. I understood what he meant. And it was a revelation to me. The next time I got to speak, it was in Warsaw. And that was the Srila Prabhupada. And so what, and then I said, understand this internal mood by understanding that Srila Prabhupada is a Rupanuga. He's the foremost of the followers of Srila Rupa Goswami. And Rupa Goswami, we know, Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yanabhutam. We know that Srila Rupa Goswami desire of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And therefore he was able to establish his mission in this world.
Manjari. Didi.
This is
Didi. Haribol.
the way that Srila Prabhupada translates that. And yes, yeah.
Didi. The quality is going down, and it's such a beautiful sharing. Do you think you could log off and come back on? Maybe you could establish a better line.
Okay.
We'll hold here. Just log off and come back in. Yeah. Hopefully it'll just be a better connection.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you just leave the room and come back in on the same link.
I hope I can come back.
Yeah, you'll be. You will. We hope you can. We're going to be praying because it's beautiful. So bear with us, everybody. She'll be in no time at all. Hopefully with a better quality connection. Dandavat Shishara. I know the Vaishnava's prayers are very powerful, so, is that her? Yes, she's back. Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to turn my video off. You turn your video off. Let's carry on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. So Anyway, so I was saying that just like Rupa Goswami understood the Manabhishta of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and therefore he was able to establish his mission in the Western world. I mean, establish his mission in this world. So Srila Prabhupada, because he also, following Srila Rupa Goswami, he understood this Manabhishta of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because of that, he was able to establish Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission in the Western world. And then what is this Manabhishta of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? And we can understand from Rupa Goswami and Arpita Chirimchira, Karunaya Vitirna Kalo, Samarpaitum, Nato Jala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam, like this. And so this is the way that I spoke. And Maharaj liked it very much. He was, because he knew I understood what he was saying. And then he made me speak every time. So in this way, he was teaching what is essential and what we should learn. And I wanted to talk about the editing work, some of the things that I learned in editing. When I first went to Vrindavan, or when I first moved there, that was in 96. Soon afterwards, Gaurapriya, my god sister, introduced me to a devotee who was working on Jaiva Dharma. And I began to help him with the editing of Jaiva Dharma. Previous to that, I had been going to the Mathura Math and listening to all the classes. And Srila Gurudev was, it was like, I was just observing. And then he was also just observing. But as soon as I began editing, our relationship changed, and it especially changed from his part. And it was almost like when I began that editing, I became his. He began to instruct me on how to do things. He began to ask questions about my living situation. You know, is there association where I'm living? He began to kind of like direct things in my life. And I could see a definite change, and it began with the editing. Gradually, I worked on many books, practically all the books, but at some point I began to work on Brihat Bhagavatamrita. This is the first volume when Tirthapad was doing it. Tirthapad asked me to do chapter 5, which is about the Pandavas. And I reached this part where it said that the Pandavas had received part of the mercy of the Lord. And I couldn't really understand what that meant. They had received part of the mercy of the Lord. I was in Hawaii at the time. I was visiting Hawaii. I was visiting my family. And Gurudev was at the North Shore. So I went out and first I was asking, I think Giridhari and Jiva were there. Jiva is now Vishnu Maharaj. And so I was asking them, because their Hindi is better than mine, I brought the book and we were looking at it. And what does it, what is the word? What does it mean to receive part of the mercy of the Lord? And yeah, I know this is a question because even in the BBT, there's a paragraph that talks about what it means to receive part of the mercy of the Lord. And that's not in the Tika, because they were also asking the same question. And so the word was amsidar. And so they couldn't figure it out. And so Jiva said, we should ask Gurudev. And so we went and we asked him, and he looked at amsidar and he said, no, this is a wrong translation. And so then he explained it to us in English. He explained us what amsidar means. And we couldn't understand it. He was explaining it in English, but we both couldn't understand what he was saying. And I'm not even sure now why we couldn't. So he looked at us and he saw we didn't understand it. And so he explained it again. And again, we couldn't understand his definition. And then at that point, he began to get frustrated with us. And he said, amsidar. He said, Madhav Maharaj is my amsidar. And so he, whatever I want, whatever. Yeah, he knows whatever I want. And then at that point we got it. It means representative. And so when I went back to the book and I rewrote it according to that definition, then it became clear that it wasn't that the Pandavas received a part of the mercy of the Lord, but it was that they were a part of the mercy of the Lord. And it's a completely different perspective. But this is how he was so wonderful. Whenever we reached, whenever we had questions like that, he was able to answer and to reveal so much. Then there was another part in the Briha Bhagavatamrita. I would write him questions sometimes. I would save the questions until they were questions that I felt only he could answer. And so I would write him letters. And I would sign the letters, your Beti. He would always answer, my dear, darling sister. Because that was, technically kind of a relationship. But, that I would always sign your Beti. And so he got to the point where he would sign it, my dear, darling daughter and sister, like that. So the question I asked was, it was about Gopakumar. Now, Gopakumar goes to Indraloka, and he worships Lord Vamandev very personally when he becomes Indra. The Vamandev is like his little brother, and he gets to serve him and he gets to feed him, and Lord Vamandev relates to him like a younger brother to an older brother. And so that's very, very sweet. And when he goes to Maharloka, he's worshiping Yageshwar. And he's feeding Yageshwar. And Yageshwar appears from the sacrifice. And he has a relationship with Gopakumar. And Gopakumar loves it. He goes to Satyaloka, and there's Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is like a father to him. He's like a son. And he's able to be so close to Lord Vishnu. At one point, Lakshmi Devi holds him just like a child in her arms. So all of this, yet Gopakumar receives prem at the end of the 3rd chapter. Much, after he's been to the Brahma Jyoti, and to Shiva Loka, and to these Metta Vishnu Dutas. Then he returns to Vrindavan, and he receives prem by the grace of his Guru. The thing is, why didn't, he had these relationships with the Lord before, yet he hadn't achieved prem. So that was my question to Gurudev. So why didn't Gopakumar get prem before? And so he said that one receives prem through Ashraya Tattva, and not Vishaya Tattva. So the Vishaya Tattva is the Lord, but one receives prem through the devotees of the Lord. Now he said that actually Lakshmi Devi and Lord Shiva are Ashraya Tattva, and they could have given him prem. But because they knew that he was destined to get it by the grace of his Gurudev, then they didn't, and who was none other than Lord Narayan himself, the Lord himself. But it's his Gurudev, that because they knew this, they didn't bestow it upon him. And so it was so wonderful to read that. And he was able to explain these things to me. These are just a few, but there's so many, in so many wonderful ways. I was able to understand so many things. Then I was also in Hawaii. Yashoda Nandan Prabhu. May I continue speaking? I don't know how long my time is.
Oh, sure. You got take another 5 minutes. Is that okay?
Okay. All right. I just wanted to talk about it was here in Hawaii. It was in 2005. At that time, there was the University of Hawaii had a philosophers conference, and it was the summertime, and I was working on, no, actually it was before summer, it was May. I was working on the coordination of that conference. And so I would go and see Gurudev. And it just struck me that we had this huge conference going on. It's like people from 35 countries, more than 200 speakers, and then they're talking about philosophy, and there were many people from India, and there were people speaking about Indian philosophy, and it was practically solidly Advaita Vedanta. And even there were a couple Vaishnavas in the group, but they were speaking about analytic philosophy or something else, but they weren't speaking about Vaishnavism. And they themselves were Vaishnavas. I met them. And so because I was working on the conference, I was going to see Gurudev regularly. I would tell him about this. And I was saying, there's a need for a Vaishnav conference. And I remember at this point when I said that, he looked at me, and it was like he didn't say anything, but he looked at me like I was missing something very important. And I looked at him and I said, "Oh, you're doing that." He said, "The Rupa Goswami conference," because since the opening of the Rup Sanatan Gaudiya Math, Srila Gurudev had started a 3-day conference at the Rup Sanatan Gaudiya Math, glorifying Srila Rupa Goswami. There's Julan and there's Rupa Goswami's disappearance day, and then there's 1 or 2 days after that, before Balaram Purnima. In that interim, he would have the major sannyasis from all the mats in the Vrindavan area, the Sanskrit Pandits, the best of the Sanskrit Pandits come and speak, and also people from different sampradayas would come and speak, glorifying Srila Rupa Goswami. And this was an event. It was in Vrindavan. The Hindi conference is so respected that it's well known amongst the Pandas and the Goswamis that if you go there, you had better know your philosophy. Otherwise, you'll be called out, because it's not only the other speakers who are knowledgeable, but the entire audience is knowledgeable. I mean, you can imagine that every year they have this speaking about the glories of Rupa Goswami, and the devotees are hearing for year after year. And there's a large gathering. They are so knowledgeable, the most knowledgeable audience in the whole world. And so the speakers have to really be up to snuff, and they know it. We've had many speakers decline because they don't think that they're good enough. These are famous people. So this is the Rup Sanatan program, and Maharaj had this 3-day Hindi program, and I realized at that point that this is it, that he has a conference on Vaishnavism, because Rupa Goswami is like the theologian of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And so he was able to was able to bring all these people together. So then I proposed that we do the English. We do it in English. And he liked the idea very much. And so from that time, when I went that year, I was actually 75. I went back, 2005. I went back to Vrindavan and we began the conference from that year. And it's been so wonderful. It gets better and better every year.
Manjari, we're going to need to bring it to a close, I'm afraid.
So the I just wanted to show you this one. I'm going to start the video just for a second.
Mm-hmm.
See this book? This is the distinctive contribution of Srila Rupa Goswami. Mm-hmm. And then on the opposite side, it's in Hindi. He loved this book. It was, we presented it to him in 2007. But I can't tell you, he was very, very happy to receive it. And so anyway, we are very grateful. He's given so much. And following, this is, he's taught me really, I feel like through Srila Gurudev, I've come to understand what Srila Prabhupada wanted me to learn. And this is so I feel like nothing can be more valuable than this. He's given me the service of Rupa and Sanatan. He's given me everything. He's taught me what I should do. So anyway, thank you very much, Prabhu.
Manjari, Didi, that was absolutely beautiful. If you could put your video on, I just wanted to say a couple of words of appreciation. The rest of the devotees present would echo my sentiments by saying that we could listen to you for a long time. I think you should do, audiobooks, because you have a great voice for stories. But one of the things that struck me by what you were telling us, and it's something that hit me a few years ago when I was reading Srimad Bhagavatam, is I suddenly realized that everything is Sambandha. And actually, Abhidheya leads us to Sambandha. Prayojan is all about Sambandha. Everything is Sambandha. And when Srila Gurudev asks you what is the internal mood of Srila Prabhupada, he was really trying to ask you what are the relationships that this personality has in the spiritual world. And when you gave examples, when you beautifully said that when you started editing, that you felt that you became his. And then you gave us examples, and you gave us some really beautiful examples, 3 examples, one of which the translation issue with the Pandavas. It wasn't that they received a part of the mercy, but it was that they were a part of the mercy of the Lord. That for one. Secondly, that you kept on referring to him, to Gurudev, as you wanted to be his daughter, not his sister. So he signed off daughter and sister, and which is very personal, very sweet. And then thirdly, how Gopakumar, the route to praying, was via the Vaishnava, not directly to Bhagwan. All these three elements inculcate us in our hearts with an understanding of Sambandha, of the relationship that we want to cultivate through our sadhana and through our seva with our Gurudev, with Parampara, and ultimately to our journey home. So the way in which you wove the Vani and the Vapu relationship you had with Gurudev was absolutely magical. And I'm sure everybody here deeply appreciates you sharing that with us. And your last part is when you started talking about, I didn't realize you proposed it to Gurudev. I thought he just instructed you. So the proposal for the English version of the Rupa Goswami Festival, that's a nice segue into me just announcing and sharing that. So everybody, this year, we're going to have a very relishable festival, thanks to the years of effort that Manjari Didi put into this festival, so that on the 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st of August, UK time, that will be 10 in the morning till 1 in the afternoon, and also a second program, which will be different to the first program, 6 o'clock in the evening till 9. Watch out for the times, because we're actually getting more and more speakers. The starting time on some days will be 9:15 rather than 10, and 5:15 rather than 6. And we've got speakers from within the close-knit family of Gurudev, but also other speakers, Prabhupada disciples, all sorts of different. We've got a Radharaman, Pablo Swami from Radharaman. We've got a beautiful plethora of wonderful speakers. And incredibly, although we now have 34 speakers, we haven't actually told anyone what to speak on anything. They have proposed their subject matters. And incredibly, even though we've kept it to only Rupa Goswami, every single person has spontaneously come up with a subject matter that is distinct from every other one. So no one is overlapping, which is amazing. So the promotional material is going to be going out tonight, tomorrow morning, so that you have all the links, etc. So please diarize that and make an effort to come, if you can, to the festival. One of Gurudev's quotes, which is actually in the video, he said, if we're not assessing on a daily basis the extent to which we're following Rupa Goswami, then there's, I paraphrase him, there's little point in actually being, there's little point to our existence. So Rupa Goswami is fundamental to Gurudev's teachings, because without him, we have no understanding of our relationship with anyone in the spiritual world. Manjari, Didi, thank you so much. I hope you can stay a little bit for the other Pushpanjalis.
Yes, Jai, thank you.
Jai, Haribol. So we're going to move over. We've got a long way to travel, but we're traveling faster than even the speed of light. We're going to go over the Pacific to California, over the continental USA, over the Atlantic, overhead, over me, over London, and to Holland. And we're going to go to Srimati Nandini Didi, who's actually had the great boon to be born a devotee. And she took Harinam and Diksha in 2004 and 2009, respectively. I thought that was Nandini, but it was Ramanandan. That was a bit of a shock, Ramanandan. So a very warm welcome, Nandini. I know it's a little bit late there. It's gone 10 o'clock. Sorry, we're running behind time. Haribol, I think I met you in Brighton when Srila Bharati Maharaj was. That was you, right?
No, I think we met at some other programs, but not this one.
Definitely met you. So, well, very warm welcome. Thank you for staying up late, and please, the devotees are going to relish your katha. Thank you so much. Haribol.
Haribol. So, Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhishya Kripasinu Bhayavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So first of all, I would like to start by offering my unlimited obeisances to my Gurudev, Nichalila Purista Om Vishnupad, Ashtotara Sata Shishimat Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. Second of all, to Marupanuga Guru Varga, to all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis in the past, present, and future, to all my God brothers and God sisters, and the rest of the God family, of course, and everyone watching. So first of all, I would like to start by thanking you for the invite and giving me the opportunity to speak. So I also heard if Ramananda asks you to speak, you can refuse. So here I am. And he specifically asked me to speak about how I met Srila Gurudev. So that is what I will do. And I met Srila Gurudev for the first time in 1997 when he came to Holland. My mother, a devotee, heard at that time that a very big sannyasi came from India, and that it was very auspicious to go and meet him. so she decided to keep me from school that day and took me to go see him. Actually, I don't really remember a lot about meeting Gurudev at that time because I was very young and I was just playing outside with the other kids. But what I do remember is that there were only a handful of people there, and I remember Gurudev walking around. He was just chanting and watching us play, and he sometimes our ball would go towards him and he would just kick it back and just smile at us. So this would be my very first memory of Srila Gurudev. And the year after, there was a devotee living in our street, Bhakta Swarup Prabhu. He just lived a few meters from where we lived. And one morning I was going to school. I was still in primary school at that time. And as I got out of the door and walked down the street on my way to school, I saw that there was a sannyasi waiting, standing on the pavement. It was actually a small street with a one-way street for cars to pass. And Gurudev was standing on one side and I was standing on the other side. And so I saw this sannyasi. I didn't know who he was, but I recognized it was a sannyasi because he was having tilak and he was dressed like a sannyasi, and he had a japamala. So I stopped to look at him across from the street, and Gurudev stood there actually all by himself. I suppose he was just going somewhere for a morning program, and there wasn't any other devotees. So he was just standing there, and he was looking at me and I was just looking at him. And I remember very clearly his glance, these piercing blue eyes that I was looking into. And we stood there just looking at each other for what felt to me for like a very long time. And finally, I remembered I had to go to school or else I was going to be late. So I turned around and I ran off. That afternoon, when I came home from school, I told my mother that I saw a sannyasi in our street. And my mother immediately knew who this was. And she said, "Oh my God, do you know who this is? This is Bhaktivedanta Narayana Maharaj. You met him? You met him on the street? Did you go and do dandavats? Did you touch his feet? Did you pay your respects and your obeisances?" And I said, "No, I didn't." And she asked me what I did. And I told her I just stared at him. And my mother got so angry with me that day. She got so angry. She chastised me and lectured me for hours on the importance of paying proper obeisances to senior devotees and sannyasis or Vaishnavas. And that you know, and I was really just a bit shocked by this heavy chastisement from her, because because she wasn't really like that. So but I never forgot it, the way that how upset she got with me. And after I started following Gurudev after 2004, my mother would be there for a darshan. We would have a Gurudev, and we would pay our obeisances. My mother would always give me a little nudge and would say, she would joke like, "Do you remember that when you didn't pay obeisances when you met him on the street, and here you are like falling on your knees every chance you get?" So this was a bit of a private joke I had with her. So in 2004, I started coming to the temple programs that were in Rotterdam at the time, and I also went to my first festival with Gurudev in Italy, and being more aware of who he actually was. And I just remember that this festival was just so special, how everyone was just waiting so anxiously and excitedly, really happy to meet Gurudev. And I remember that right before Gurudev came, I could actually feel the energy change. And a few minutes later, somebody called and said, "Oh, Gurudev is coming," and everyone just dropped what they were doing and just rushed outside to go and see Gurudev. and everyone was just chanting and singing, and then Gurudev got out of the car, and it was just such a wonderful moment. What I also remember about this festival was that every wish I had to do seva somehow was granted. I always liked to make flower garlands, and I really wanted to make some flower garlands for Gurudev. And by some miracle, I ended up making his flower garlands every time before he would give class, and somebody instructed me on how to not make them very heavy because it would be heavy for his neck. And in the afternoon, I would take a basket and I would go outside and pick flowers, because they had wonderful, beautiful flowers in this area. And at one point, they made an announcement that people should stop stealing flowers from other people's gardens. So I just I didn't really realize that I was stealing flowers, because I was so happy to do this seva. Also in that time, I also started feeling some pressure on how to take Harinam and Diksha, because everyone was always asking me and encouraging me, but very sweetly also. But sometimes it felt like a bit much when everyone was doing that. And since I was raised that you had to follow certain rules to be able to qualify to take Harinam, I really felt like I wasn't ready. And one time I was talking to a devotee about this, and she said that Gurudev said that if you don't have initiation, then you're an animal. And at that time, I was a teenager, and I got really upset with this. I really thought like, oh, am I an animal? And I was just really upset for days. And finally, I remember that Gurudev said in a class that if we ever have any doubts or we have some questions, we should come to him and open our hearts, and that he would help us. So I decided to do that, and I asked Brajana Prabhu if there was time for me to ask a question. So I went to Shri Gurudev and I asked him if I was an animal, and so Brajana Prabhu asked me to elaborate a little bit on this, which I did. And then the first thing Gurudev said to me was that it made him very sad when devotees use his words out of context, because this was not what he meant at all. And then he started explaining that when you follow the 4 principles, then you are not an animal. And then he looked at me and smiled very sweetly and said, but I know you follow the 4 principles, so therefore you're not an animal. And I just felt like such a relief that I wasn't. And then I asked him about taking Harinam, and I told him that I didn't feel ready. And I felt a little bit that I felt quite pressured by it. So Shri Gurudev then said, well, when will you ever be ready in this life, really? And he started explaining about internal and external initiation. And then also saying that internal was the most important. And again, he looked at me and said, but I know you've already internally accepted me as your Gurudev. So when you're ready, you can come to me and I will give you external initiation and take you to the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. And especially the last part was really important to me, because it really made me feel like Srila Gurudev could read my mind or really know what I was feeling, because I was struggling with this a little bit at that time. And then 5 years later, actually, it took me 5 years to actually get the formal initiation. And at that time, I honestly thought that I had any say in this, but I came to realize that I'm not the controller and everything was already arranged. Probably also when Gurudev, well, for sure, when Gurudev saw me in the street, and as a child, he already knew that I would grow up, and he would be so kind to accept me as his disciple. and it was also a funny story that made me realize that I wasn't the controller at all in this situation, even though I thought I was. We were at a festival, and every morning Gurudev would go on a morning walk, and all the girls would wait in front of his door when he came back, and we would sing for him. So one day Gurudev came back from his morning walk, and then he walked right up to me and he said, "Where's your kantimala?" So I was wearing a jacket or a sweater that was zipped up till here, so you couldn't really see my neck. So I said, "Oh, it's right here, Gurudev." And then he said, "No, your kantimala, it's not right. You should wear it just like me." And at that time, I was having a kantimala with very nice beads, and I would also sometimes make sure it would match my clothes, and I was really attached to it. So Radhanatha Prabhu went into the house, got me a new kantimala, and gave it to me. And I remember that everyone, and me especially, was just so shocked on how he knew, because you couldn't see the kantimala at all. And I honestly thought that he had some X-ray vision, and I especially like comics, so I thought he was like Superman, like he could see through the through the sweater. And everyone who was there was just amazed by it, that he knew. And later, when I was on Parkram in Kartik, my mala got stolen while I was taking a bath in Radhakund, and I was really upset by this. I had this mala ever since I was very young, and I was apparently very attached to it. And I was just crying for days, and I was really, really upset. And finally, a devotee said that I should go to Gurudev and ask him for a new japa mala. But then another devotee said, no, you shouldn't go to Gurudev, because Gurudev gets very upset when you lose your japa mala. He will not be pleased with you at all. So I really didn't know what to do, and I just continued to be very sad about this. So one day after class, I was crying because I was so sad that I lost my mala. And Srila Gurudev was passing by, and he asked Radhanatha Prabhu why I was crying. So Radhanatha asked me, and Radhanatha Prabhu asked me, and I explained to him that my mala got stolen, and that I was very sad about it. And Gurudev then looked at me and said, "Okay, I'll give you a new one." So Radhanatha Prabhu went in the house and got me a new japa mala and gave it to me. So in this way, I could really see now that I actually got all the external things that you get when you actually take initiation. You get your kantimala, you get your japa mala, and Gurudev gave them all. He arranged that I would have them all, and eventually I was ready to take formal initiation, which I did. And so in preparation for today, I was thinking about a lot of classes, how there's being spoken about how Gurudev is closer to you than the air that you breathe. And for me, sometimes this is very frustrating, because I don't realize this at all. And so I was trying to meditate on how we can experience Srila Gurudev's presence even now. And foremost is through his nearest and dearest disciples, because if you're within their association, it just really feels like Srila Gurudev is just right next to them. Because wherever they go, they carry Srila Gurudev in their heart. So this will be possible also for us, but it really depends on us in which way we accept Srila Gurudev in our life, and how much space we give him in our heart, or whether that is a central place in our heart. If I speak for myself, I tend to forget this because I get so absorbed in my own personal desires. So the most important thing truly is to have association with who have Gurudev already in their heart. And And this pandemic especially made me realize that how fortunate we are here in Holland to have so much sadhu sangha. I never really appreciated until now when we're not having it physically, at least. So yeah, the way really to keep Srila Gurudev close in our heart is to really be around those Vaishnavas, and really truly in their presence we are constantly reminded of Srila Gurudev's presence. We can actually feel that he is right there, and I think it's important for me then to sometimes go back to basics, to think about what it was that Gurudev really wanted us to do. What did he do? What example did he give? And what we can do to make him happy. Because true Guru Seva is really to please Srila Gurudev, to fulfill his desires. This is actually the most important task of a disciple. And we should really try to not forget this, to remind ourselves, to remind myself of this constantly and work towards this goal. And in this way, Srila Gurudev will be present. We can actually feel and see that he is eternally present with us. So today, on that matter, today is also the disappearance day of Srila Bhakti Rakshak Goswami Maharaj. So Gurudev really instructed everyone to give proper respects to our senior devotees and Vaishnavas, but especially on their disappearance and appearance day. So I would like to close off by reading 3 sentences from Shri Guru and His Grace, a book by Srila Rakshak Goswami Maharaj that I read today that I thought was really beautiful about Srila Gurudev. So he says in the introduction that the guidance to perfect or absolute truth is necessarily a function of the Absolute himself, and the divine agent through whom this function manifests is Shri Guru, or the divine guide. His advent is the most auspicious and happy event to the suffering animation, and can be compared to the rising of a morning star that can guide the traveler lost in the desert. A gentle touch of Shri Guru's merciful hand can wipe off the incessant tears from all weeping eyes. I just, when I read that, I just thought that was extremely beautiful. So yes, I guess I'll stop, and I pray to you all that I may remember Srila Gurudev and his instructions, also through the personal memories that everyone has been sharing so sweetly, and through his books, and that I one day may be able to understand and please him. So thank you again for having me. Thank you,
Nandini. That was just sublime. I feel like after Manjari and you, I'm sort of like floating on some kind of flower aeroplane somewhere. It's absolutely delightful. And Radhanatha Prabhu, thank you so much. We have lots of fishermen going out around the world finding wonderful flowers, and you brought a beautiful flower for the program. It was absolutely gorgeous. I love, was it in how old were you in 97 when you didn't pay your obeisances?
11.
You were 11, yeah. Because it was kind of really interesting. What I took from that was that, of course, our goal is Manjari Bhav, and Gurudev is teaching us a relationship with Bhagavan, where ultimately in the spiritual world we forget who the Lord is, and he forgets who we are in terms of that intrinsic tattvic relationship, and we move to a totally different Rasik relationship. And so in a sense, you started your relationship with Gurudev in that way, because you not paying obeisances to him was symptomatic of you having no idea who he really was in that sense. It was very beautiful. Actually, that is the most amazing thing about Gurudev. He had this gravity, and he's Sadguru, you know, it's like, whoa. But somehow, like I remember once for myself, I was on a volleyball pitch in Brighton playing volleyball, and the mobile phone goes, and I couldn't recognize the voice. It was like a little boy. And it was Gurudev calling from India, asking me to do something. And he was like a little boy. And immediately my heart was like, oh, I want to help this little boy. I want to help this helpless little boy. And yet he's my guru. It was like, you know, that's how Gurudev could manifest multiple relationships with us and just get us by the heart. So that was a beautiful start. And I loved how you said about stealing the flowers. You know who's a very expert flower stealer is Srimati Didi. She's famous around Walthamstow for stealing flowers on her morning walk. But I also loved your whole thing about, actually it was quite, I learn a lot when I hear these, when I hear people, devotees sharing their hearts about their realizations. And you were talking about internal, external aspects of Diksha. And it's kind of really interesting because sometimes our internal mood towards Gurudev is stronger than what we can actually do on the outside. And then sometimes what we're doing on the outside isn't really matched on the inside. And there may be different areas, you know, different devotees have different mismatches. And even within ourselves, we have different areas of mismatch. But understanding that Gurudev has the patience to keep bringing us towards him and increasing that internal and external manifestation, and ultimately, hopefully, having them totally congruent in pure love and affection, it gives us a lot of faith. So thank you for reminding us of that. And you read from one of my favorite books, Shri Guru and His Grace, an amazing book. And actually you touched on a principle inadvertently, which is that Guru is both Akhanda and Vyasti, one and different. So Bhakti Rakshak Srila Maharaj used to describe himself as a backward-leaning gentleman. He was not so much about touring around the world and preaching, people went to him. He was much quieter in that sense. But you totally are nourished in your relationship with your guru, because we're brother and sister. We're nourished in our relationship with Gurudev through Bhakti Rakshak Srila Maharaj. And this is such an important understanding, which brings me to a reminder to everyone that once we finish our 64th program, we're on 44 now, so 20 to go. So we'll finish around that's right, Charlotte, it's his disappearance day today, yeah, as Didi mentioned earlier. When we get to our 64th, which I think will be around, obviously, the appearance day of Srila Gurudev in next calendar year, we'll be continuing this program, but instead of calling it Gurudev Memories, we're going to call it Guru Memories, and we're going to open it up to all the 15 Mahabhagavats like we did with Guru Pranim, and we'll be inviting devotees from all the Sanghas to glorify these magnificent Vaishnavas. And not only that, will that be relishable for us and help us in our relationship with our Guru, but 100 years' time, devotees will be able to log on and hear this. Can you imagine us hearing how disciples of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur glorify him? That's what it's going to be like in 100, 150, 200 years. We'll have those glorifications available to devotees. Who knows? For those of us who are going to come back to this planet, we might actually benefit in a future life. Nandini, Didi, thank you so much. That was beautiful. I know it's late there. We have another 2 wonderful sharings. If you have the stamina, it's going to definitely be worth staying up to hear them. So we're now going to, oh, you're getting a bit of a round of applause there for Ramananda. So we're going to go to California. Our next 2 speakers are married. Srimati Kalimba Didi, followed by her husband, Sriman Radhanatha Prabhu. I just want to say, well, I'll give you the facts first and then share something personal. Didi met the devotees in 1975 and took Harinam from Srila Prabhupada in 1976. And it's a very special day for her. Is it? I think it's almost, well, it's parampara inspired synchronicity that you're actually speaking, offering your Pushpanjali on the disappearance day of Bhakti Rakshak Srila Maharaj, because he's your Diksha Guru. So that's quite amazing. And you met Srila Gurudev somewhere before 1996, and I know it must be before 1996 because Didi, you played a very special place in my life where when I heard of Srila Gurudev, when I first went to Vrindavan with Budar in January 96, and I came back with my ex-wife in the following month, and we were in Ganga Prasad. I was probably having a nap. I don't know what I was doing there. Or we were buying some some cloth or whatever. And you came in and we had this very dynamic conversation. I don't even think you realized that we'd been told about Gurudev, and you were inspired to say, hey, you guys should go and see my guru. And Narayan Maharaj was leaving, this was in Vrindavan, Narayan Maharaj was leaving Mathura for Navadvip the next morning, I think by 7:30. So you were the reason why I was able to meet Gurudev before he came to the West. So I'm eternally grateful for that amazing circumstance in my life. A very warm welcome. And have you got a timer there, Didi, for 30 minutes, or do I need to jump in? Are you going to be okay?
You might want to jump in because I lose track of time, even though I have 2 clocks in front of me.
Okay, I'll tell you when you're 5 minutes. I'll tell you when you got 5 minutes left. Didi, you're very warm welcome. So happy you've joined us. Please offer your tasteful, tasty Pushpanjali. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. My Dandavat pranams to all the Vaishnavas present. But first, let me offer my, first I want to correct you, Prabhu, that I received Harinam in 1977 in February, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's appearance day with my mother and my sister. Yes. So I first of all offer my Dandavat pranam with my heart like flowers onto the lotus feet of my eternal spiritual master, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And I would like to offer the same unlimited Dandavat pranam onto the lotus feet of my beloved Diksha Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhardev Goswami Maharaj, whose disappearance day, Tirobhav Titi, we're celebrating today. And I would like to offer the same unlimited Dandavat pranam with eternal gratitude to Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, my beloved Shiksha Guru. And in the Guru Purnima festival, I was just getting started when I was given the 1-minute notice. And so I had an opportunity to describe what it was like to have darshan of Srila Prabhupada with the airport greeting and then the receiving his glance as a child, going up and giving him a flower and getting a cookie. And that was like a wave that I just took shelter of, and then my time was up. So when you asked my husband and I to speak on this day, at that time I didn't realize what day that was on the Vaishnav calendar. And when I did, of course, I realized that this was the opportunity to go to chapter 2 of Guru Tattva in this life for me. And so I'm hoping it's okay, actually, that I take this time for that and to honor this TT. And I would like to, just like as if you're worshiping the sun and you're using a candle or a ghee lamp, you're offering a little tiny flame to the source of flame. I want to use as many of his own words as possible to remember him by, and I do have notes here so that I don't waste the time with some side story. Gurudev always gave me permission to do that. So first of all, there's a beautiful prayer to Sri Gurudev written by Radhanatha Das Goswami. Nam Shrishtam Manumapi Sachiputram Atra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagajam Urupurim Maturim Gostavatim Radha Kundam Girivaram Aho Radhikal Madhavasam Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Sri Gurum Tam Natosmi. And in our Gurudev songbook is the most delightful translation actually given by Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. So he says, I'm fully indebted to Sri Gurudev because he's given me Sri Harinam, he's given me the holy name. And he has given me, and it contains the highest form of thought, aspiration, and ideal. He's giving me the service of the great Savior, the son of Mother Shachi, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is like a golden mountain indicating the way to Krishna Lila. Sri Gurudev has brought me to Swarup Damodar, who is Lalita Devi herself, the most intimate friend of Srimati Radhika. Then he has brought me to Sri Rupa, who was ordered by Mahaprabhu to distribute Rasa Tattva, the truths regarding transcendental taste and gradation in the Lord's Leelas. And then to Sanatan Goswami, who adjusts our position in relation to Raganuga Bhakti, or that devotional path of love that closely follows the moods of those perfected devotees whose relationship with the Lord is in the moods for which we aspire personally. Gurudev has brought me to Mathura Mandala, where Sri Radha and Govinda have their pastimes, where the forests, hills, and every creeper, shrub, and grain of sand are udipana, stimuli, to help me remember Radha Govinda. He has given me Radhakund and Giri Govardhan, and he has given me assurance of all of these, so I bow my head with deep respect unto his lotus feet. And how universal is this prayer? This prayer applies to Guru Tattva regardless of who our Gurudev is, because Guru is one. Guru is ultimately, well, Sakshat Hari, but Krishna's Acharya Leela. He's the representative in one of the many facets of Krishna performing this Leela of reclaiming the fallen conditioned souls. So special excerpts of his own writings are hereby being offered like a candle to the sun. So there's an amazing book full of his perfect Sanskrit compositions that are the most amazing poetry, the deepest prayer, containing just the essence of all the Vaishnava thought given to us by our pantheon of Sri Guru. And this collection starts with Sri Nityananda Dvadashakam. So it's 12 prayers glorifying the fountainhead of Sri Guru Tattva. And there are just a couple of points in a couple of the English translations that strike me to share. He says that Lord Nityananda's partial manifestation as Kiradakshaya Vishnu functions as the preservation principle of the entire universal creation, and he is actually localized as Paramatma in every living being through every birth. And interestingly, Srila Guru Maharaj's appearance day is shared with Virachandra Prabhu, who is the son of Lord Nityananda Ram, who is actually an incarnation in Gaur Leela of Paramatma, of that Lord that expands as the witness and guide with every living being. And another of the translations of this wonderful prayer to Lord Nityananda that has always struck me is that Lord Nityananda, he is what is the unique temperament in every jiva. Every jiva has unique moods, and Srimati Radhika is intent on sending her representatives. This is another aspect of the Guru Tattva, to come and pick all these flowers and offer these unique moods that can give unique pleasure to Krishna. And our Gurudev always would say, I have put you in my pocket and I'm offering you. I'm assisting Radhika in offering you to Krishna. And okay, so then I'm trying to decipher my notes here. I took quite a lot of notes and I don't want to rely totally on them, but I have no idea what that's all about. Okay, so anyway, I'm gonna have to go off the notes. Actually, I have some bookmarks here too. So there are 3 wonderful prayers that he wrote in glorification of all of our Param Gurudev, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada, and we all get to relish one of them every single morning. And so I will offer my Dandavat pranams to that prayer as I go to the next one that is less familiar. And so this is 5 prayers offered on the appearance of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada. And through hearing many recordings of his own voice and his own singing of this prayer, I want to just share 1 or 2 verses because it's so beautiful. And also hearing these verses gives a glimpse into who is Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj and what is his relationship with his guru and what is his ontology. And it's shockingly beautiful and very high. So I'll skip right to verse 3 and then go to 4. So, and this is in his own melody. Ati lokika gatitalika ratiko tukavapusham ati daivata mati vaishnava yati vaibhava purusham Shri Sanatana Raguru Paka Paramanuga Charitam Suvicharaka Iva Jivaka Iti Sadhu Biruditam Shubhadodaya Divase Visha Ravicha Nijadaitam Pranamami chacharanantika paricharaka sahitam. And it means this: O Daita Das, your divine personality exists within the spiritual realm, and your manner of movement is quite gentle, while your divine figure fondly engages in the Lord's Shringar Ras pastimes. In addition, your external appearance radiates the prestige of a dignified renunciate, far, far superior to any class of demigod, and possesses the intelligence of a pure devotee. Every aspect of your distinct personality is exactly parallel with those magnificent devotees, Srila Sanatan, Srila Raghunath Das, and Srila Rupa Goswami. Due to your wonderful and precise judgment, the devotees have declared that you are the true life image of Sri Jiva Goswami. On your auspicious appearance day, I humbly offer my respects unto the tips of your lotus toes in the association of your favorite servitors. O Gurudev, you are the dearmost object of King Vrishabhanu's daughter, Srimati Radhika. And I have to read the next one too. So, Sharasi, I'm going to do it lower. Sharasi tata sukado taja nikata priya bhajanam lalita mukha lalana kula paramadara yajanam brajakanana bahumanana kamala priya nayanam Guna Manjari Garima Guna Harivasana Vayanam Shubhadodaya Divase Visha Ravijani Jadaitam Pranamami Chacharanantika Paricharaka Sahitam. O Daita Das, preoccupied with intimate service alongside the Lord's closest servitors, you are residing on the banks of the Saraswati River, seated inside a simple grass hut in the beautiful garden known as Svananda Sukata Kunj. Always standing just before Srimati Lalita Devi within a group of Manjari servitors as Nayanamani Manjari, you are deeply absorbed in dedication's inward current. In the gardens of Raj, you are intimately disposed to Srimati Kamala Manjari, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the closest object of your affection, and your singing of the divine qualities found in Guna Manjari, Srila Gaur Kishore, weaves a tent inviting Lord Hari to reside there. On your auspicious appearance day, I offer my obeisances unto the tips of your lotus feet in the association of your dearmost servitors. O Gurudev, you are the favorite object of King Vrishabhanu's daughter, Srimati Radhika. And he has similarly written a tear-jerking, amazing song that is 10 prayers offered in separation on Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada's disappearance day. And that is very beautiful. And I'm just going to chant one of those, just the first one. And before I do that, I just want to remind us all that so prior to his departure, when he was about to leave Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, he requested Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj to sing that wonderful song by Srila Rupa, no, by, oh my gosh, by Narottam Das Thakur, I think, Sri Rupa Manjari Pada. And so he had this great honor of singing that song right as his guru was preparing to leave this world. And then when Srila Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur left, all the clocks in the entire temple in that mat all stopped. And very shortly after, Srila Guru Maharaj wrote this song. And I won't read all 10, just the first. But it goes, Nite yasmin nishante nayana jalapara snatta katra buddhanam ucharut krashatam shive shakapi sutaya diraya sviyakoshtam Pripikad handakarahita nayana maniva vritayena hina yatra satatra shigram kripananayana he Niyatam kinkaroyam yatra so tatra shigram kripananayana he niyatam kinkaroyam. And listen how he captures the mood of that time. He says, at the close of night, early morn, there were crores of devotees freshly bathed, loudly wailing, their eyes overflowing with sorrowful tears of hopelessness. Srimati Radhika, that radiantly beautiful queen of Vraj and daughter of King Vrishabhanu, had summoned her intimate servant, Sri Daita Das, to return to her divine camp, their personal family. Now, in the absence of Nayanamani Manjari, the Earth planet has been vacuumed into the deepest vacant darkness. Oh, with no further delay, kindly accept this fallen soul as your servant. O Dayita Das, I am hoping against hope to be embraced within the fold of your divine company. And then rewinding the clock, so Srila Bhakti Rakshak Guru Maharaj joined his Gurudev's mission in 1926. And he was engaged in so many amazing preaching services. And there are such delightful pastimes of him going with just a couple other luminaries. And, you know, they would go door to door. And one time they were going door to door and they were getting some rejection. And they went to one house. And the man, when they gave their opening line about how they're from Gaudiya Math, and this was when they were coming from Bagh Bazar Gaudiya Math in Calcutta, and they were needing to collect the funds for a festival, a major festival, and the man listened, and then he was stunned at the door, and he just said, "Wait here." And he went and got his wife. His wife had just had a dream of Srimati Radharani, who said in her dream, "I am Radharani of Gaudiya Math, and I would like your necklace," or either that or yes, I think it was the necklace. And so they donated that necklace, and it was so valuable that it paid for the entire festival. So that's one. But in 1930, in the presence of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj wrote an amazing ashtakam glorifying Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj, his own Gurudev. And upon hearing this prayer, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada was so pleased. He said, "Now I am confident that when I leave this world, there will be someone who can represent the Siddhanta." And then also in that same year, in 1930, he composed a most incredible prayer song of separation of Srila Bhaktivinoda. It's called the Sri Bhaktivinoda Viraha Dashakam. And definitely need to share one translation from that. So that is so amazing. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was so happy hearing this Bhaktivinoda Viraha Dashakam that he declared that Sridhar Maharaj has caused the Thakur to reappear in these verses. So here's one verse, verse 5, just the translation. When he appears within the dark evening sky, the full moon gives life to all the medicinal herbs within the universe by his cooling rays. He also helps the stars to twinkle, and their nectarian pleasure increases as they illuminate the world. O Bhaktivinoda Thakur, you have appeared like the moon to enliven the meaning of the scriptures, which act like medicine to soothe the diseased souls of this world. Your advent gives pleasure to the saints who, like stars helped by the moon, can illuminate others simply by reflecting your light. How are we doing on time?
You're doing well, Didi. You've got another 8 minutes.
Woohoo! Okay, so I
You
want to
doing great without the notes, by the way. Beautiful.
thank you. I want to share something personal, and it might be a little bit inappropriate, but I had the fortune, and I want to just say I'm in the category of the, I never actually had the opportunity to be in front of him personally. I know him through his Harikatha, and I got to do service while living in his London mutt for 1 year, and I got to write and request Diksha, and he invited me to come to Navadvip and receive Diksha from him. Something happened in my life that made it so that I wasn't able to go to India, and he mercifully gave me Diksha in New Braj in 1986 through one of his very dear sannyasis. And I remember, and I'm just going to share this real quick, I was on a parikrama with Gurudev in one of the earlier years in Mathura, and someone had found out that I never met my Diksha Gurudev personally, in person, and they were saying something about how that's not strong enough. You're and giving me this idea that maybe my connection wasn't real enough, and it upset me. So I disappeared from the parikrama, and I went back to Vrindavan because we were in Mathura, and I opened the lock on my sister's room, who has like 400 cassettes. And I pulled a random cassette down. They're only named by date. I had no idea which one I was pulling down, and it was in the middle of the cassette. And right when I pressed play on the cassette recorder, I'm dating myself here, someone was asking Srila Sridhar Maharaj, many devotees received initiation from Swami Maharaj by letter. Is their connection real? And his answer was, the will of the Mahabhagavat is what makes that real. So, and then the next question someone asked was, some are serving with Gurudev in person, you know, right in his association, and some are serving on the other side of the world. Who is closer to Sri Guru? And he said, it's by faith. So hearing really is everything. And really we do see with our ears.
What did he say? What was his answer? I couldn't quite hear what you said.
He said, it is by faith. Whoever has the stronger faith is closer to Sri Guru. Okay, so, but I want to share that when I was living in the London Mutt and doing service there, one very merciful devotee, Srimati Manjari, Didi, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, she allowed me to sew together a cutout of this robe, and I got to sew this together. It was already cut out, and it was already known by her that he would accept it. And so that is just a little something personal connection. And before I run out of time, I just want to say a few more things that I've written down that I don't want to miss being able to tell. I want to especially point out how amazing his writing is of the Sri Prema Dhamma Deva Stotram, which is, and I'm pretty sure if you Google that, you can find a PDF of it online. And it's 70 prayers, might be 72 with the little boon verse at the end. Summarizing Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, capturing the essence of all of Sriman Mahaprabhu's principal pastimes, plus the essence of his Achintya Beta Beta Tattva, his unique contribution as of that point into our Sampradaya of simultaneous oneness and difference, and also touching on Krishna's highest glories and the glory of Srimati Radhika. And I had actually selected 5 verses to chant, but I'm running out of time, so I won't be able to do that. But these were going to be a verse each representing the 5 life heirs of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is Ramananda Samvad, the Rath Yatra pastimes, Rupa Shiksha, Sanatan Shiksha, and Shikshastakam. So please find that prayer. It's amazing to actually sit down and have an intention ahead of time to chant the entire prayer, especially like on Gaur Purnim, if you have the opulence of standing in Ganga, from start to finish. The mercy of this author of Srila Sridhar Maharaj is available to anyone. He's a very high caliber Mahabhagavat who even now, through hearing, through coming in contact with his writings, through coming in contact with his moods, you can pray to him, and he's so merciful and so available. You can start a relationship with him. There's no inhibition of time, place, or circumstance. So that's why Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada gave him the title Bhakti Rakshak. He's a guardian. He's a guardian of our devotion, and that will be forever. So with that, are we about at the end of the 8 minutes?
Yeah.
So obviously I didn't have an opportunity yet to glorify Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and I hope I'll get another opportunity before this centennial year is up. That would be really special. I guess this had to be in 3 parts. So all glories to Sri Sri Guru Karanga, all glories to Srila Shri Srimad Bhakti Rakshak Sri Dardev Goswami Maharaj, may he sprinkle his mercy. I have to say one little thing. May he sprinkle his mercy on all of us. I just have to say this one thing with Srila Gurudev, that the first year that all these Westerners came to the Holy Dham, we walked from Varshana to Nandagram, and we met him at the Modi Bhavan in Nandagram. And Srila Gurudev was sitting on the cement platform of a well, and he was so full of love, and there's the most beautiful picture taken of him there. It's sort of a sepia tone image. His face is just radiating with just love, and he was really in the mood of giving. And I beamed over to him and I said, "Oh, Gurudev, we're always praying for a drop, a bindu of your mercy, please, and yet we see that you're showering us with mercy." And he said, "Yes, Swami Maharaj and Sridhar Maharaj are inspiring me to sprinkle you all." So with that, I offer my Dandavat Pranam to all the speakers, all the organizers, and I pray. I'm very unqualified, and obviously I had to use his words to glorify him because I don't have any real devotion. But I pray for the mercy of all the Vaishnavas, and pray for continued association, because in your presence I feel the presence of my Sri Gurus. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo. Thank you.
Didi, your presentation today has inspired me to suggest that we do a mini festival for Bhakti Rakshak Srila Maharaj, because his Vani is so extraordinary and so nourishing to our relationship with our Guru, whoever, many people have got different Gurus. It's just extraordinary. And when is his appearance day?
His appearance day is, his appearance day is during Kartik.
Yeah, that's right.
The lunar, I should memorize what's happening with the moon so that anyone could easily know. But anyway, it's printed in the Vaishnav calendar that Gurudev.
Maybe we'll wait till next year, because during Kartik too many other things are going on.
Yeah.
But there is so much to relish, and actually your presentation day, which was incredibly moving for me, and it really brought me closer to your Gurudev. It's almost like it was an anthology of his work. I mean, you were bringing out things that I'd never heard of before, and my request to you, and we're speaking quite frequently at the moment, would be it'd be very nice to compile those PDFs, and I can make them available to the group, because I'm sure everybody would really appreciate that little anthology that came from your presentation today, because if we can inculcate those moods through repetition, it would be tremendous for our bhakti as a major, major contribution. And at the beginning, you mentioned, I couldn't quite hear what you said about Nityananda's 12 Ashtakams. Is that also written by Bhakti Rakshak Srila Maharaj? It is. So I'm very greedy for that. And it was not ironic, but interesting you opened up with that, because of course I met your mum separately to you many years after I met you. And she's one of my favorite devotees, and she's a total Nityananda, bhakta. So maybe there's a link between mother and daughter there. It was amazing for me when I met her in Puri, and I thought, wow, this devotee is out of the box. She's fantastic. And then I didn't know she was your mum at the time. It was only afterwards I found out from her. So that was a nice connection. So thank you for that beautiful, wonderful sharing. And I'll be following up with you for maybe I can help you with the anthology. And we're definitely going to have a little Bhakti Rakshak Srila Maharaj festival at some point on his Vani.
Jai Hari Bol.
Dandavat Pranam, Hari Bol. So we're going to.
There's just one thing I wanted to tell. I was in Vrindavan. Yes, I was in Vrindavan when Kalimba, on this day, I guess it was during Kartik, but she glorified Srila Sridhar Maharaj in front of Srila Gurudev.
Oh.
And in front of the whole assembly. And it was very beautiful. And so I was thinking that this is her seva to Srila Gurudev. to glorify Srila Sridhar Maharaj.
Beautiful. Thanks, Manjari.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we're going to now, Kalimba, you're in California. Where in California are you?
We are in Oakland.
Oakland. Okay, great. So we're now going to go to your husband, Sriman Radhanatha Prabhu, and forgive me because my bio on you is not quite so strong. So you may forgive me, Kalimba, for making a mistake. You actually did tell the right thing. I wrote it down wrongly on your Harinam date, so my apologies. But Prabhu met the devotees in the early 70s, and you were given a Bhagavad Gita by Mula Prakriti, who I knew very well. An amazing devotee. Actually, she unfortunately passed on quite a few years ago. I was just on a conference call with her husband, Gopa, just now. And she gave you the Gita in 79. You joined the temple, and you met our beloved Srila Guru. Sorry? Oh, you're on mute, by the way. And then you met our beloved Srila Gurudev in 1999. But forgive me, I don't have your Harinam and Diksha dates. Maybe you can fill us in. But a very warm welcome to our program, and we look forward to your Pushpanjali. Haribol.
Haribol. Can you hear me, Prabhu?
Very well. Yeah, very good.
Okay, good. My pranams to you. Thank you so much for inviting us to speak and remember Srila Gurudev. Umagyanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Vilitang Jaina Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Sri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namane Jai Srila Gurudev. So it's very auspicious that we're able to remember our beloved Gurudev. And regarding meeting Srila Gurudev, I originally met, the first time I heard Srila Gurudev's voice was, I think, in 81. And it was from a cassette tape that Pushpadanta Prabhu had brought back from Keshaji Gaudiya Math. And he was showing it to another devotee, letting him listen to Gurudev's kirtan. And when I heard Srila Gurudev's voice, I said, "Who is this?" And he said, "That's Narayan Maharaj." And I said, "Who's that?" He's like, "Oh, he did the sannyas ceremony for Srila Prabhupada." And I'm like, "Oh my God," because the kirtan was just so sweet. And now these recordings are out, but this was, fresh back from India. It was a cassette recording. And I said, I remember saying this, it came spontaneously out of me. I want him to be my guru, even though this was 81 and I was already initiated by an ISKCON guru. But by hearing his voice and the sweetness and the potency of his kirtan, I said, I want him to be my guru. And I remember Pushpadanta Prabhu saying, well, he doesn't initiate, even though I was already initiated. And I said, anyway, that just happened. And consequently, I got a copy of that cassette tape. I made copies for so many devotees, including Vrindavan Vilasini, Karta, so many people, because whenever I would play that, I used to do Didi worship at the LA ISKCON temple. And I would play that cassette tape. And anybody who heard that tape would say, "Who is this?" And I was like, "Oh, this is Narayan Maharaj." And they would say, Radhanath, can you make me a copy of this cassette? So, I made numerous copies. Anyway, fast forward, and then I got to meet Srila Gurudev sometime in 85, 86 at, Rupa Sanatan Temple in Vrindavan. And this was, Rupa Sanatan Temple had just been completed. In fact, even the bas-reliefs on the walls were not painted yet. They were still just that red stone. And the temple president of ISKCON Vrindavan, who was at that time, what's his name? Dinabandhu. He told all the devotees that year in Kartik, he said, anyone who wants to go to Srila Narayan Maharaj's temple, please meet us in front of the temple around 11:30. He's invited us all for lunch. And I'm like, whoa, okay, now's my chance. I get to meet Srila Narayan Maharaj. And so we went, there was just a few of us, and we all went. And we went to the temple to take prasad, and I remember he said, once you sit down, don't get up until all the sannyasis get up. And it was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. I felt like I was transported back into the time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because the prayers, the prasadam prayers seemed like they went on forever. In fact, I was getting a little impatient because in ISKCON we sing the one prasadam prayers, but this was the last day of Kartik. So many prayers were being chanted, and finally I just surrendered and got into it and enjoyed the ecstasy that all the devotees were experiencing there. And prasadam just kept coming. And then when you thought you could not eat anymore, then the sweets started to come, and it just kept coming and coming, and such an ecstatic experience. And I remember seeing Srila Gurudev in his room downstairs, speaking with everyone. And I was, coming from ISKCON, and I was amazed at how informal everything was with Gurudev. He was sitting on his bed, and women were coming up and laughing and crying and joking. And it was just like, it kind of took my mind for a loop. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. So I just went and sat down, and we took prasadam and we left. Then fast forward, being in ISKCON, and actually finally, I have to mention meeting Srila Gorgovindamaraj. I remember coming back. I was temple president of the Hawaii ISKCON for 4 years, and I went to the temple president's meeting. I don't remember, maybe this was probably, maybe early 90s. And I was coming back on the airplane with Jayadvaita Swami, and I asked him, Maharaj, who do you think the most advanced devotee in ISKCON is? And he said, Srila Gorgovindamaraj. And I said, I didn't know who that was. But when I got back to the Hawaii temple, sure enough, we got a phone call, and it was saying that Gorgovindamaraj was going to be coming to the Hawaii temple for a few days. So I got to meet him. And he came, and of course, as you all know, he gave some of the most extraordinary Srimad Bhagavatam classes, and calling people out and just igniting the temple room on fire with his bhav bhakti. And I got to, since I was temple president, I got to go in his room and speak with him. And I remember asking him about the jiva tattva. And he said, no, we don't, I said, Maharaj, in ISKCON they say, because I never could believe that we fell from Vaikuntha. It just didn't make any sense that, that we could fall from a perfect place, because that's the way it's preached in ISKCON. And I asked him about this. He said, no, we don't come from Krishna Loka. We come from the Tashta region. I said, Maharaj, why does everybody preach this in ISKCON? He says, I don't know. He says, they asked me to write a paper, present a paper. I presented my paper, and they don't accept it. What can I do? And then I asked him about Guru Tattva, and he explained truly what is Guru Tattva, that Guru, because at that time I was initiated by an ISKCON Guru, and the other ISKCON Gurus were trying to, you should take reinitiation. And I was just like, no, I don't want to, I just wasn't feeling inspired to take reinitiation. So I asked him about Guru Tattva, and he said that the Guru has to be liberated. The Guru cannot be under the three modes of nature. He has to be a liberated soul in order to extract the devotee from the material world. So that was very satisfying. Subsequently, I ended up kind of moving out, leaving ISKCON, not in my heart, because in my heart, I knew this was the right thing, but I just kind of moved away from the institution. And one day I ran into a devotee, one of Prabhupada's disciples, on the street in Hawaii. And he said, oh, that Narayan Maharaj is in Hawaii right now. And I said, Narayan Maharaj, you mean like Narayan Maharaj from Vrindavan? And he said, yes, he's staying at Vrindavan's house on the North Shore. And I'm like, oh, really? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, and then he started to go on with his blasphemy. And I just said, hey, Prabhu, hold on. Thank you. And we'll catch you later. And I remember just making my way to the North Shore straight away. And when I arrived on the property, the first person that I saw was Srimati Shamarani Didi, who I had a relationship with, because she stayed with us in the Hawaii temple for some time when I was there. And she said, oh, Radhanatha, you're here. You should come and take initiation from Srila Gurudev. And I'm like, okay. So immediately she took me to Srila Gurudev's room, and Gurudev came out and she introduced me to Gurudev, and Gurudev looked at me and he said, okay, I will help you. Come tomorrow at 8 o'clock. So the next day, I remember the devotees were all there. At that time, all the devotees were camped out on Vrindavan's property on the North Shore. And Gurudev used to go there twice a year. I think he had just started that year. He would go in December, and then he would go again right before the Badger Festival, sometime in May. But so Srila Gurudev, of course, the next day I came, it was a Kadashi day. The devotees shaved me up. I bathed in the ocean, and I went to Gurudev's room. And I was just the only one in the room, just me and him. And I sat there, and he asked me, what are the mantras? And I explained, I showed him how I pronounced the mantras, and he corrected me on the pronunciation, and then gave me all the Gayatri mantras and gave me Harinam and explained to me the deep meanings of Sri Harinam. And like this, and it was beautiful. And I told him, Srila Gurudev, I said, I have Radha Krishna deities. And he said, oh, has anyone done Pran Pratishtha? I said, no. He said, bring them, I will do. Of course, he didn't do them that year because they left early the next morning, they left. But the very next year I brought my Radha Govinda, who I had been worshiping since 86, since I purchased them in Vrindavan, which is a whole other story. But so the next year I brought them when Gurudev came to Hawaii, and Gurudev installed them. And I asked him, because I used to always call them Radha Govinda, and I asked him, Srila Gurudev, I never told Gurudev this. I said, Srila Gurudev, what is their names? He looked at me kind of like strangely, like, Radha Govinda ji, like, why are you asking me? You know their names. So I was, they say I was in the right place at the right time. Like I said earlier, Srila Gurudev used to come twice a year to Hawaii, and his Hawaii time was his retreat time. It was his time for writing. There wasn't usually not many festivals, or usually no festivals. He would come in December and stay for a month or two, and then he would also stay in May, and he would stay for a month or two, and he would just write. Continuously write. And he had a very beautiful program, Mangalartik, and he allowed us to come. Only a few devotees were allowed to come and be with him. His morning program, like he always does, waking up very early in the morning, performing his bhajan. And a couple of times I got to enter into the room while Gurudev was absorbed in his bhajan. And if you can only imagine what Gurudev's bhajan is like. He's sitting very tall and upright, and completely silent and motionless, doing his bhajan. And then he would join us for Mangalartik. Everything was in one room. He would join it. He slept in that room, and that's where we would have Mangalartik in Vrindavan's living room on the North Shore. And then we'd do Tulsi Parikrama, and then he'd go on his morning walk. And we'd all jump in a car, and we'd go to a nearby park, and Gurudev would walk. And the water, the grass was sometimes moist in the morning. So Vrindavan bought him these kind of reef walker shoes. They're pretty classic. I don't know if anybody's seen pictures of Gurudev walking in Hawaii with these blue reef walker shoes that he would walk around. And there was these very fragrant flowers there. And Madhav Maharaj and Radhanatha would go, and we'd pick flowers for Gurudev's puja. And we'd go on these morning walks. Then he would sit down like he always does and ask us questions and quiz us on verses and like this. So, and another thing is Srila Gurudev always would bathe every day in the ocean. And in fact, one time when he would allow us, we'd go and bathe with him in the ocean. And I remember the first time when I was very new devotee with Gurudev, and we went into the ocean, and the waves were kind of big, not too big, but all of a sudden we're in the water. We're all in the water with Gurudev, and this pretty big sized wave comes. So I went behind because Gurudev had his back towards the ocean and he was facing the shore. So I went and I grabbed Gurudev like around his body to shield him from the wave crashing on him. And so I grabbed him, and then after the wave crashed, he looked at me and he says, I am okay. And I was thinking, you know, because Gurudev, how old was he then? 80, 90? 70. Was he 70? So I was, you know, Gurudev's, I was thinking he's old, he's weak. And then Gurudev starts to backstroke out into the ocean and kicking his legs. And I'm like, you know, I was thinking Gurudev, you know, he couldn't swim or whatever, but he was showing what an excellent swimmer he was. And he started backstroking into the ocean and kicking his legs. And I was just like, wow, okay. And Gurudev used to love walking back and forth in the ocean. In fact, I remember once I came in the afternoon to see Gurudev. It's like 4 or 5 after, I guess, after his nap, because Gurudev would, so after he would swim, he would take his swim, then he'd come, do his anik, then he'd take lunch, and then he'd take a little rest. And then he'd wake up like 3 or 4. And once I came looking for Gurudev, and nobody, it was very casual, you know, everyone was just, and I asked Madhav Maharaj, where's Gurudev? And he said, I don't know, maybe he's walking on the beach. So I ran down the beach, and there's Gurudev. I could see Gurudev down the beach. So I ran to him and I paid my obeisances to him. And he was just chanting japa on the beach. And he used to like to walk where the water would come and touch his feet. And I got to walk with him, and he started telling me about his preaching that he's doing all around the world, and how devotees are becoming enlivened and becoming more fired up, getting life back. And then after he would walk back up to the house, he asked me to rinse his feet with the water hose to take the sand off his feet. So this is some of the sweet moods that we had with Gurudev in Hawaii. I remember one time Gurudev arrived on Christmas Day in Hawaii. And it was really sweet because we were all kind of joking that, oh, Santa Claus is coming to town, you know? And so it was Christmas Day. We're all at the airport greeting Gurudev, and Gurudev comes off the plane, and he has his big beard. And there he is, he's our Santa Claus. And the very first words that came out of Srila Gurudev's mouth was, Merry Christmas. And we were just all in ecstasy because we were not expecting that. And then he goes and he starts embracing us, you know, and it was less like, you know, that type of thing coming from ISKCON, that, you know, your guru doesn't embrace you. And we had so many crazy misconceptions about what guru is, and they would accept so much worship. But Gurudev came out and very casually said, Merry Christmas. And we said, Merry Christmas, Gurudev. And it was just so wonderful to be with Gurudev. And I remember also one New Year's Day, we were there with Gurudev, and Gurudev asked Brajnath, has anyone sent me any Happy New Year's wishes? He wanted to know if Brajnath had received any emails where the devotees were offering, or phone calls where they were saying Happy New Year to Gurudev. And I remember Brajnath said, no, Gurudev, we didn't get any emails. And so Gurudev, I remember Gurudev being like, like not really sad, but just, he was hoping to get some Happy New Year emails, and there was none. So I remember one New Year's Day, me and Kalimba, we thought, you know what? It's New Year's. Let's call Srila Gurudev. And I don't remember where he was. Was he in Hawaii, or we were living in Oakland then? And so we called Gurudev on New Year's Day, and we said, Happy New Year's, Gurudev. And he was very happy to receive our call. And after asking me how I was, and he said, where's my Kanaka Manjari? He wanted to talk to Kalimba. So he got to speak with Kalimba. But I had some other things. Gurudev once asked me to bring Tulsi because there was no Tulsi at Vrindavan's house in Hawaii. So I used to keep, you know, Tulsi grows very beautifully in Hawaii. So I brought a beautiful Tulsi Devi, and then nobody was taking care of it. And I guess it somehow dried up, and Gurudev told me, he says, they are not taking care of your Tulsi here. She was so beautiful. She was one of the most beautiful Tulsis I've ever seen, but take her back because nobody's taking care of her here. And also Gurudev, he initiated my 2 sons, Sadhu and Rish. And they were just very young. They were only like 8 or 10 at the time. And I remember once they were there. Gurudev used to like to watch the ocean. He used to sit at Vrindavan's porch and watch the waves. And he would chant his japa. And I remember my 2 boys were there sitting with Gurudev. They were just very young. And I said, okay, boys, please come, let Gurudev's chanting. Gurudev said, no, they can stay. They are my children. And I remember once, because my boys kind of grew up in ISKCON atmosphere, and they said they were all happy after they met Gurudev. They never had any taste for chanting or hearing Hari Katha. And they were just like to play. But after meeting Gurudev and getting so much love and affection from Gurudev, they used to chant every day on their beads and sit in the front, in the very front of Gurudev's class. And I remember once telling my children, I said, what's wrong with you? What's wrong? What's gone into you guys? You guys are now chanting and sitting in the front of the class? And he said, and my boys said, yes, because it's Gurudev. We have to sit in the front of the class. And I remember once my boys asked me, so is Gurudev going to come to the temple? Meaning the ISKCON temple. And I said, oh no, he's not allowed there. They're like, what? He's not allowed at the temple? And I said, no. They said, why? I said, oh, the GBC says they can't come. He said, and then my kids, who were just kids, didn't know what the GBC was. They said, the GBC, who's that? Are they devotees? They thought maybe that there was some, local institution who was keeping Gurudev. They were questioning, are they devotees? They can't be devotees if they're saying Gurudev can't come to the temple. So anyway, it was very sweet like that. And I remember, I'm sure many devotees have had this experience of Srila Gurudev reading the mind of the disciple. And I remember once, before I met Kalimba, and I was single at that time. I was single. I was divorced, and I was thinking I needed to get married. And I went that morning walk. I went and was going to ask Srila Gurudev if I could get married. And I remember before I got to ask him, Gurudev sat down and he looks at me and he says, "Why do you want to get married?" He said, and he started naming so many reasons why it's not good if one's married. He said, and I said, but Gurudev, most of Mahaprabhu's associates were all householders. He said, yes, but they were pure Vaishnavas. There's so many obstacles when one gets married, and your time and energy will be deviated from bhajan and like this. But then later Maharaj came to me and he says, Gurudev knows that it's probably best for you if you get married. He was, Gurudev was cutting all my arguments and trying to defeat me, but Gurudev knew that it would probably be good for me to be married. And I remember once also Srila Gurudev would how much more time do I have? I think my time's coming up, huh?
You're good, Prabhu. But a bit like Kalimba, 8 minutes.
Okay, cool.
You asked
all
exactly
right. So anyway, once I got to see Srila Gurudev, he was taking prasadam, and he would just sit down and take prasad and eat with his hands on the floor. And I walked into the room, and Gurudev was just finishing up, and he had just finished taking prasad, and he got up and he was walking to the bathroom to wash his hands. And he looked at me, and the way I see it is that, Srila Gurudev is always effulgent, but sometimes most of the time, he turns off his effulgence. But every once in a while, he may allow a devotee to see his glowing effulgence. And so that time after Gurudev, we know Srila Gurudev, he's taking prasadam. It's not an ordinary thing. He's with Radha and Krishna. So after he got up and walked by me, he looked at me, and he had this beautiful glowing effulgence. And he looked very youthful and effulgent. And he looked at me, and I was speechless. I was just like, and he said, "You were okay?" And he walks right by and went to the bathroom. And then I remember Madhav Maharaj, he immediately went like a very anxious person, and he went and sat down on Gurudev's seat and started taking some of his Mahaprasadam. And I took note of that because I was thinking, Madhav Maharaj gets to take Gurudev's Mahaprasad every day, but he still honored that Mahaprasad with such eagerness, like it was his first time ever doing it. And I just took note what a wonderful relationship that Madhav Maharaj and Gurudev have. And then Madhav Maharaj handed me the plate and said, okay, now wash Gurudev's plate. Once Srila Gurudev, we were in California, and Gurudev, he came up to me after his nap, 4 o'clock. We were staying in Nevada. He was staying at a friend of ours' house, Surrender Prabhu. And Gurudev said, I have some pain here in my back. Can you take me to some doctor or recommend something? And the interesting thing is that I had that same pain right there in that same place. It was like my back needed adjustment. So at that time we were going to a chiropractor, and I said, yes, Gurudev, I know a chiropractor, we can take you. So it was Sunday. Nobody was working. So I looked in all the yellow pages. That was, the yellow pages days. And I found one who works from home. So we got to take Gurudev to the chiropractor, and that chiropractor adjusted Srila Gurudev. And we were there. It was Radhanatha was there, Madhav Maharaj was there. Even I remember Ramachandra Prabhu was there. And we were all very worried, and we had to tell the chiropractor that Gurudev had some surgery. He had some neck surgery or something, so spinal something. So please be very careful. But that person was very gently and adjusted Srila Gurudev, and Gurudev felt better. And in fact, in Badger that year, because that was right before the Badger festival, in Badger that year, Gurudev came up to me after one class, and he said, can you arrange for me to see this doctor again? And I said, yes, Gurudev. And so that year when Gurudev got back to the Bay Area, we arranged for that chiropractor to come again to see Srila Gurudev. In fact, that chiropractor lent Gurudev one of his very expensive machines to help. It was like an infrared machine to help Gurudev with some healing. One question, while Gurudev, this will be my last little story I tell, but during Gurudev's stay at Surrender's house in Nevada, which is in the Bay Area, after a morning walk, I got to ask Srila Gurudev a question. And at that time I was studying Shikshashtaka, Gurudev's book, and I wanted to know what was in the first verse of Shikshashtakam. The verse is, Chaito Darpana Marjanam. I remember when I quoted this verse to Gurudev, Chaito Darpana Marjanam, I remember seeing Srila Gurudev's eyes kind of go back, like he went into ecstasy, and he was tasting this verse on a very deep level. So the section that I had in question was Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. I said, Gurudev, what is this Shreya Kairava Chandrika? And he said, just as in nighttime, in the evening, when the moon rays come out and they nourish the white water lotus, the kumud, and cause it to beautifully bloom. He said, so similarly, Sri Krishna's Sankirtan diffuses the moon rays of Bhav Bhakti, causing the white lotus of good fortune to bloom for the jivas. And then he went on and on to explain every other section of that first verse of Shikshashtakam. So anyway, on this, there's so many more. I took little notes of different little memories I had of Gurudev. And of course, these are the most cherished moments of our life, is to be with our beloved Gurudev and to get his pat on the head, to get his embrace. And I got to wash Srila Gurudev's feet numerous occasions. And even once, Kalimba told me to tell the neck beat story. Once Srila Gurudev, I was being a rascal and I was not following his instructions. And Gurudev once, we were on a morning walk in Hawaii.
Before you met me.
Before I met Kalimba, she says. And Gurudev, we were on a morning walk and I was standing next to Gurudev, and all of a sudden he reaches out with his left hand and grabs my neck beads like this. And he's talking to the devotees on the walk. He's saying, sometimes a disciple who's not very obedient to his Gurudev, sometimes Gurudev has to come and drag the disciple and pull him. And I remember Gurudev grabbing my neck beads with his full fist. And I'm thinking, that's it, I'm finished. He's gonna yank my beads off. He's gonna reject me. And that's it, I'm done. And Gurudev, then he just got me like this and he just pushed me away. And I was just, oh God, that's it. And I was just crying. I was like feeling so low. And I went and sat down on the wall, some wall in a distance. And Maharaj came up to me and he said, Radhanatha, what austerities have you been performing that Gurudev loves you so much? And I was just thinking, what such a rascal I am. That Gurudev, he should totally reject me, but he's still giving mercy. And even to this day, Gurudev is still giving mercy to such a low person as myself. Vanchakalpatarubhishcha kripa sindhuvevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo. Dhanavad.
Thank you so much. That was a beautiful
I think you're muted.
That was a beautiful offering and a wonderful finale to the evening, which has been a tremendous contributions from everybody. What I took away from what you shared, and it was so beautiful. You really brought Gurudev's mood present for me. I had so many experiences with him, and the three things I noted was the intimacy, the informality. You mentioned the word informality many times, and that intimacy and informality just transmitted so much sweetness. So he is actually the living embodiment of all of the teachings that we're trying to imbibe. And that by you expressing that Vapu, actually you're expressing the Vani in the Vapu. That's what I felt. There was actually no difference between Vapu and Vani. And so everything you explained was like the beautiful Vedas, Bhagavatam, Krishna, Radharani, Rupa Goswami, all embodied in one single personality. And you made that very present for me. So thank you so much. Did we meet?
And I know you had so many wonderful experiences also with Srila Gurudev, and I don't know if you've given yours yet, but hopefully one day we'll get to hear all your stories.
I was on the Indian one, and I think I had 35 stories. So what I did is I numbered them, and the audience just said, okay, I want number 7. And then I would like pick it out of a hat, or which story. We just did these random stories. It was a lot of fun. But tonight was an amazing journey. We started with Srimati Manjari Didi in Hawaii, talking about how Gurudev put her on the spot, asking her what was the internal mood of Srila Prabhupada, and her being like stunned by the question, and then she expanded from there. And then we moved over to Holland with Srimati Nandini Didi, and such a sweet Qatar, explaining how when she was 11, she just happened to meet Gurudev and didn't even pay obeisances because she had no idea about the etiquette, and was scolded by her mother. And she then talked about the internal and external aspects of Diksha. And then we moved to your wife, Srimati Kalimba Didi, who such a beautiful exposition on the Vani of Bhakti Rakshak Maharaj. And then Prabhu, a beautiful finale bringing Gurudev's sweetness home to us all. When did you both marry, by the way? Which year?
Srila Gurudev married us in Hawaii in 2004, right?
2005.
2005. And
Okay.
that's a whole amazing story. How Gurudev married us with one day's notice, and how we went up, we approached, I'll tell the brief story. It's 30 seconds.
Okay, go for it.
You asked. So we went to see Srila Gurudev on his Vyasa Puja, and we approached his Vyasa-san together. And Gurudev had never seen us together. He knew Kalimba, he knew me. And he looks at us and he says, he went to Kalimba, you want to be with him? And she said, yes, Gurudev. And then Gurudev said, very good. So you always be together. You serve me and you serve Sri Radha and Krishna. And then so we went to Brajnath after. We said, this is what happened. Does that mean we're married? And Gurudev said, come tomorrow, 8 o'clock. Brajnath said, come tomorrow, 8 o'clock, bring 3 garlands. So we went, Gurudev was sitting on the porch and at Mula Prakriti's house on the North Shore. We walked up in Hilo. Yeah, on Hilo. And we walked up to him and we have these garlands, we're dressed nicely.
No, I asked Gorgovindamaraj Prabhu to go up ahead of us just to make sure this was actually going to happen.
And Gurudev looks at us and he's like, what's going on here? And Gorgovindamaraj Prabhu says, you're marrying Radhanatha and Kalimba. And so Gurudev kind of smiles, and he was actually bringing Gurudev a coconut. So he hands Gurudev this huge coconut with a straw in it, and Gurudev starts to drink it. And he's drinking it, and he's drinking it, and he's drinking it. In one gulp, not one gulp, but one without removing his mouth from the straw. Finally, you start hearing, the end of the coconut. Gurudev finished it, and he hands the coconut to Gorgovindamaraj, and he says, bring me some flowers.
Wait, I have to just say that before the coconut was this tense moment where we didn't know if Gurudev was going to actually do it, because he doesn't like to do weddings. Yeah. And we were seated, and it was very tense because we were barely there by the skin of our teeth. And then the coconut thing happened, and we're all like looking down.
Then he let out a burp.
Yeah.
He went, bah!
Really big burp. And that just broke the tension. And suddenly everything became possible. And Gurudev was laughing, and he was in a jovial mood. And he told Radhanath to stand up. We had the garlands, and he gave him one of the garlands to put on me. And he told him to stand up, and he gave him our vows. He told Radhanath to say, I promise to always treat you honorably and submissively. And then he had me say the same to him. And then he said one other thing, that never do anything without consulting the other. And I got from that it's about mutual respect. And the thing about, submissive, it reminded me of that statement made by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati saying, the only true relation between souls is in obedience to one another as constituents of Sri Radha. And so I just took that as so beautiful, that I promise to always treat you honorably and submissively, that it's like he's keeping us very close.
And then Gurudev says, so now you should cook a feast for all the devotees. And I said, yes, Gurudev, we're cooking tonight. He says, and you should pay for it. And then we said, well, Gurudev, we don't have any money, because we barely, like Kalimba says, we made it there by the skin of our teeth. And Pushpadanta said, don't, because Pushpadanta was there. He's been with me at all the most significant points in my life. And he said, don't worry, Gurudev, I'll give them the money.
I'll loan them.
I'll loan them the money. So we anyway, that's the brief story. Kalimba could give you a 2-hour story.
What Kalimba said reminds me of that interaction about submission. Reminds me of when Ananga Mohini and I were with him, and he said, when you have argument, you should apologize to her, and she should apologize to you.
Hey, Prabhu, since we have you right here, right now,
yeah,
I've heard Kalimba told me the story that you probably already told this on another.
No, he already told it when he first came up. Before I said
no, the one about I'll shave my head if you get. Can you tell that story quickly?
Okay, so I was due to take Diksha.
Right.
After Diksha was in 1996 Kartik, I was due to go to Japan, and I didn't want to shave this shaving up business, tilak shaving up. It all seemed a bit weird to me, right?
Right.
So, I'm a middle-class boy from London. What do I want to do that for, right?
Right.
And so I went to Gurudev and I started negotiating with him, like, Gurudev, I understand you have to shave up, but can you make an exception for me, please? He's like, no. I think I pestered him at least 5 times. Like, I really pushed it. Yeah, I could tell. So finally I said, okay, Gurudev, I'll shave up. Like, as if I was, it was just so outrageous. I said, okay, I'll take Diksha as long as you give me your hat. So he gave me his hat, and I wore the hat all the way around Japan afterwards when I flew off from India.
What was it, like a beanie cap?
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
But that's the nature of the relationship with Gurudev. That was the intimacy and the informality and the sweetness. And I kind of felt with Gurudev, listen, I know this guru thing is pretty heavy, pretty intense, but I kind of felt like he wanted me to be myself. He wanted us all to be natural. And if I overstepped the mark, he'd give me a slap. I wasn't really worried about that. I thought, if I get it wrong, he'll tell me. I don't have to be, minding my P's and Q's too much. And that makes you just you can't believe it, like that you can have such a relationship with such a personality. It's just inconceivable.
Yeah, maybe on the next time I'll talk about the slaps, the punches, and the kicks that I got from Srila Gurudev.
Oh, that would be good. I think we're gonna have to have you guys back on. That was totally awesome. Thank you for a beautiful. Well, for me, it's an evening. I need to get to bed.
Yes.
I don't know what's happening on the kirtan side. Have we got Nandini? Has she come in? Or would who have we got on here? Oh, Harry Priya is still there in New Zealand. Harry Priya, would you like to do a little bit of kirtan to exit the program? Maybe not. Oh. Taruni, do you feel up to it?
Haribo?
Oh, she's there. Didi, would you like to do a little bit of kirtan? To close
I
the
won't
program.
put the video on because I've got my phone plugged in and it's very low. So
Sorry to put you on the spot, but I just thought you might want to just give a little bit of kirtan to end the program.
okay, do something if you like. Yeah.
Beautiful, thank you.
Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janadava Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi.
Oh, what happened? Oh, you're on mute, Didi. You're on mute. You muted yourself. That was very.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Thank you so much, Hari Priya Didi. Beautiful. Okay, so that's our 44th program complete by the mercy of Guru and Parampara. Beautiful nectar tonight, and we will see you next week at the other time. Oh, let me just check. I think it's midday next week before I lively announce it. Just 1 second. Gurudev Memories next week is at, yes, midday, midday time. Haribol, Dhanavad Pranams, Vanchaka Pratubhischa, Kripa Sindhuevacha, Patitanam Pavanabhyo, Vaishnavibhyo, Nama Namaha. Hare Krishna.